Greetings, my fellow freedom-loving sovereign thinkers. This is LO3's newest podcast. My name is Craig, transmitting from the beautiful swampy mangroves of South Florida. And today's date is Saturday, November 18th, 2017. And time flies when you're having fun, right? And everyone's still talking about distractions, what's going on with the sexual harassment case, groping and all that. But the whole question is, where's their merit? Don't get me wrong, I do talk about things of what's going on with pedophiles, sex trafficking, child sex trafficking, etc. But now everyone's like trying to pick the political blame game. You know, one person says, "Oh yeah, well if Franklin gets it, we should get the 45th, we should get President Trump in there as well." I'm like, come on, grow up. Very juvenile. You think your parties, whatever your guys are, are dandy, superior, and chosen by God? Give me a break. Here's the thing about both political major parties. They are in complete turmoil, deep crap, and a lot of trouble because folks are seeing the bigger picture. If you ever recalled why Trump became president, you should start your history. That's from both sides of these parties. Do your homework instead of listening to bobbleheads. I love it when I hear Jeff Fleck about, oh yeah, if Roy Moore gets in to our party, we're toast. Yeah, it's already been burnt to the ground as well, my friend. Congressman Flake, you've been in the twilight zone. You haven't been really in touch with the people, I would say. So, it's just too many distractions, folks. That's one thing you got to look at. A lot of stuff that's happening around the world. Even an individual like myself can't try to absorb all it myself. So, one of the things I always say is don't get distracted. Beware of the divide and conquer game. They want us nitpick. That's their fetish. They get off on it. So, that's enough of that. I'll be digressing all day long. However, I am at CJ's Java Lounge located at 400 Southwest 1st Avenue, Suite 1 along the beautiful New River Fort Lauderdale, southwest section of the Andrews Avenue Bridge. And we do have some very malicious news. I just found this out this morning. It came out 8 a.m. Pacific time. AC/DC guitarist Malcolm Young passes away at 64. Guitarist has been battling dementia in recent years. From KNAC.com. Sad news to report this morning. Malcolm Young, the lead guitar player for rock legends AC/DC, has died at the age of 64. The band posted the following statement on their social media pages this morning. Today, it's with deep, heartfelt sadness that AC/DC has announced the passing of Malcolm Young. Malcolm Young Angus was the founder and creator of AC/DC. With enormous dedication and commitment, he was the driving force behind the band. As a guitarist, songwriter, and visionary, he was a perfectionist and a unique man. He always stuck to his guns and did and said exactly what he wanted. He took pride in all that he endeavored. His loyalty to the fans was unsurpassed. And his brother, it is hard to express in words what he has meant to me during my life. The bond we had was unique and very special. He leaves behind an enormous legacy that will live on forever. Malcolm, job well done. Additional statement from his family said he died peacefully on Saturday with his family by his bedside. Renowned for his musical prowess, Malcolm was a songwriter, guitarist, performer, producer, and visionary who inspired many. Malcolm has been battling dementia in recent years, an illness that forced him to retire from the band prior to their Rock or Bust tour. It is very disheartening, and I would like to say that I remember AC/DC, like 36 years, I would say 38 years. It had that basic sound, but distorted and brought up a notch or two. So, one thing for sure, he left a lot of great songs. And he did things on his own terms. Him and Angus. That's one thing they did. He kept them entertaining. They weren't big in fans. He just went out there and just jammed. I did one of their shows, and they didn't do sound check. The road crew did. Went in there and boom, ready to go. That was pretty cool. So, one thing for sure, may not be the same, but like I said, may it still be forever free. Of course, he did things on his own terms. He was one of the main contributors that put AC/DC on the map. And they could never take that away from him. Alright. And I want to do a little bit here that got my attention. It's going to be a short set episode here. And this one here came from Bob Livingston's alerts. Always love his work. Go to BobLivingstonLetter.com. And this one's here. He wrote, "The myth of political parties. There is nothing which I dread so much as the division of the republic into two great parties, each arranged under its leader, and concerting measures in opposition to each other. This is my humble apprehension, and is to be dreaded as the greatest political evil under our Constitution." John Adams, the works of John Adams. Political parties exist to give the illusion of choice, but the choices they give you are choices they decide upon. You have very little to say in it. Plainly stated, an elite group rules no matter which political party appears to be in power. The people in political power, under any party name, keep themselves and their buddies in power to keep mass corruption covered up. The same bureaucrats are always in charge, so as to keep a tight lid in order to prevent exposure. The reality is that there are two names of political parties, but the philosophy and morality of all politicians is the same. The things that are equal to do the same thing are equal to each other. The axiom above brings forth the conclusion that politicians cannot be different and cannot have a different morality than the system and survive as politicians. Therefore, they have to all be the same. The power structure quickly dispenses with a politician who has an honestly opposing morality and philosophy. If as few as 1 million Americans knew this truth, the corrupt political system in America will collapse. Politicians are crude, monotonous, and uncommitted to anything that does not grow their power and their power of the state. It seems that politicians have a language and word system that baffles and stupefies the public mind. There is no doubt about it. Consummate political parties' power lies in the power to deceive. Politicians, with few exceptions, worship the state and consider the state as the only cure for all ills imagined and real. They are beholden to the system. They seek to divide the people and place them into one group or another, and then to pit them against each other. Republican versus Democrat, liberal versus conservative, white versus black, male versus female, straight versus sodomite, Christian versus Muslim, Christian versus Jew, Christian versus non-believer, in order to achieve more political power. The American people have become so dependent on political authority that they do not know the difference in realism and illusion. Tens of millions of people can be psyched up to kill each other in foreign wars when in act the only difference in the two systems is the name. The political process is a facade of government that satisfies the quest for political choices. It is an illusion unrelated to reality and political participation by the people. It is, however, the perfect system for keeping the people focused on empty nonsense year after year. People totally misunderstand the nature of government. Otherwise, they would know that there is no such thing as political choices or political freedom. We are oppressed by government, and most people are unaware of it because they themselves have assumed government morality from childhood as outlined above. It is impossible to change what you believe in your heart. If you're taught that democracy means freedom of political choices, you never question it, and the facade of politics serves for reality. Any challenge to this paradigm is written off as nullity or conspiracy. The political process is a merry-go-round of phony politicians and platforms that can guarantee only one thing to the person. That is eternal diversion, deception, and exhaustion. The American people are taught from birth that Americanism, patriotism demands and requires participation in politics. And this guilt overrides common sense and reality. The unconscious stigma has enslaved many a soul for all his lifetime. To power seekers, the most attractive government is some form of collectivism. It can be any name, but it must be collectivism. Collectivism is the idea for government expansion at the expense of the people. Collectivism attracts hardwired psychopaths who use the system for cronyism and their aggrandizement. They care not one whit about constitutional government and the rule of law. They only care about a political facade to hide their chicanery. The result is the collectivist American system that has gradually adopted the 10 planks of communism without Americans even being aware of it. The following are the 10 planks of communism at work in America. America is nearer a communistic than a republican in form of government. 1. Abolition of property and land and application for all rents of land to public purposes. Private property rights are almost non-existent today. You don't own your property. It can be confiscated for non-payment of tribute to the king, or if a government agency like the Environmental Protection Agency can arbitrarily tell you what you can and can't do with it. 2. A heavy, progressive, or graduated income tax, accomplished via the American tax system, enforced via the Gestapo-like Internal Revenue Service. 3. Abolition of rights of inheritance, accomplished via the estate tax. 4. Confiscation of property of all immigrants and rebels, accomplished via redistribution, asset forfeiture, drug laws, allowing law enforcement to confiscate property if it's suspected of being used in trade or manufacture of drugs, often without evidence. 5. Centralization of credit in the hands of the state by means of a national bank with a capital state capital and an inclusive monopoly, accomplished via Federal Reserve, which is not federal, doesn't hold reserves. 6. Centralization of the means of communication and transport in the hands of the state, accomplished via the Federal Communications Commission and the regulated airline industry, Amtrak, public transportation, and the regulated auto industry. Further attempts being made to seize more power through control of the internet. 7. Extensions of factories and instruments of production owned by the state to bring it into cultivation of wastelands and the improvement of the soil, generally in accordance with the common plan, accomplished through price controls on the utilities via the government-supported monopolies and subsidies for favored industries. 8. Equal liability of all to work. Establishment of industrial armies, especially for agriculture. Industrial armies accomplished through regulation, favoring and subsidizing unions. 9. Combination of agriculture with manufacturing industry. Gradual abolition of all distinction between town and country by a more equitable distribution of the populace over the country, and progress via UN Agenda 21 and 2030 Sustainable Development Agenda, planned communities, etc. 10. Free education for all children in public schools. Abolition of children factory labor in its present form. Combination of education with industrial production accomplished via the public indoctrinating system called public education under the control of the federal government. These planks are embraced by both major political parties. You can say this, a lot of the stuff, you can say what I'm looking at, many of it is from the Communist Manifesto. He's correct if you start paying attention. Even with the president now, they're still keeping the same status quo, keep the same people over and over again. And the truth of the matter is, my friends, Congress can stop funding them under Article 1, Section 7 of the U.S. Constitution. The House can do it, period. You can look it up yourself. And this is why political parties are very dangerous. Even George Washington addressed that in his farewell address. Make that a statement. You can look it up yourselves. That's why, my friends, I'm always observant and vigilant. Your rights are natural born. These bastards, from both the major political parties and the other third parties out there, almost have the same mindset. How can we control the people? It's like a gang of thieves, plutocracy, right? Something you have to really think and learn. Hey, they need us more than we need them. That's how I see it. So, excuse me here. But, yeah, so I'll be ranting all day on this. I'm just going to make my point across. And I'm going to do one more here. Came out a couple of days ago. And, it came out actually November 16th, November 16th. It says here, Kentucky resolution signed on November 16, 1789. Would the proposed constitution create the limited federal government promise? That was a central question facing the ratifying conventions at America, considering adopting a new constitution. Those in favor of ratification swore it would, but many remained skeptical, arguing that the new general government would undoubtedly try to expand its power, and that the constitution would not sufficiently restrain it. It took a decade for the federal government to prove to any Federalist right. During the summer of 1798, Congress passed and President John Adams signed into law 4 acts, together known as the Alien and Sedition Act. With the winds of war blowing across the Atlantic, the Federalist Party majority vote the laws to prevent seditious acts from weakening the U.S. government. Federalists utilized fear for the French to stir up and support these draconian laws, expanding federal power, concentrating authority in the executive branch, and severely restricting freedom of speech. 2 of these alien acts gave the president power to declare foreign U.S. residents an enemy, lock them up, and deport them. These acts vested the judicial authority in the executive branch and obliterate due process. The Sedition Act essentially outlawed criticizing the federal government, a clear violation of the First Amendment. Recognizing the grave danger these acts pose to the basic constitutional structure, Thomas Jefferson and James Madison drafted resolutions that were passed by the Kentucky and Virginia legislatures on November 10th and December 12th, 1798, and respectfully, the Principles of 98 formalized the principles of nullification as the rightful remedy when the federal government oversteps its authority. The Alien and Seditions Act outraged many in Kentucky. Several counties in the Commonwealth adopted resolutions condemning the act, include Fayette, Clark, Bourbon, Madison, and Bruford. In Madison County, Kentucky militia regiment issued an ominous resolution of its own, stating the Alien Seditions Act bills are an infringement of the Constitution and our natural rights, and that we cannot approve or submit to them. Several thousand people gathered in an outdoor meeting protesting the act. in Lexington on August 13. Pushed to nullify the Alien Seditions Act was not simply the act of opportunistic politicians. It rose out the passionate demand of the citizenry in Kentucky as well as Virginia. Jefferson penned out the original draft of the Kentucky Resolution within a month of Congress passing the Seditions Act. That the several states composing the United States of America are not united on the principle of unlimited submission to their general government, but that by contract under the style and title of the Constitution for the United States and for amendments thereto, they constituted a general government for special purposes, delegated to that government certain definite powers, reserving each state to itself the residuary mass of right to their own self-government, and that when it's over, the general government assumes undelegated powers. Its acts are unauthoritative, void, and of no force. After outlining each constitutional violation, overreach of federal power, Jefferson called for action, nullify now. Therefore, this Commonwealth is determined in its doubt to its co-states are to submit undelegated and consequently unlimited powers in no man or body of man on earth, that in cases of an abuse of delegated powers, the members of the general government being chosen by the people, a change by the people would be the constitutional remedy. But where their powers are assumed which have not been delegated, a nullification of the act is the rightful remedy. That every state has a natural right in cases not within the compact, causes non-federalists to nullify of their own authority all assumptions of power by other within their limits. That without this right, they would be under dominion, absolute and unlimited, whatsoever might exercise this right, judgment for them. So, it's called freedom of conscience, you would say, right? Absolutely. So, I'll go on here for a moment. So, go to around here and say, Jefferson sent former Virginia ratifying convention delegate Wilson Carey Nicholas a draft of the resolution, likely hoping the state legislature could get them introduced in Virginia. In October 1798, Wilson indicated that State Representative John Breckinridge was willing to introduce the resolution in Kentucky. Breckinridge suffered from tuberculosis and made a recuperative trip to Sweet Springs, Virginia. In late August of that year, Nicholas gave the Kentucky lawmaker a copy of Jefferson's draft during that trip. November 7, 1798, Governor James Garrard addressed the Kentucky State Legislature, noting the vehement opposition to the Alien Seditions Act. He said, Kentucky was, if not a state of insurrection, yet utterly disaffected to the federal government, and noted that the state, being deeply interested in the conduct of the national government, must have a right to applaud or to censure that government which applauds or censure becomes its due, urging the legislature to reaffirm in support of the U.S. Constitution while entering your protest against all unconstitutional laws and impolitic proceedings. That same day, Breckinridge announced to the House he intended to submit resolutions addressing Garrard's message. The following day, the Fayette County lawmaker followed through, introducing the amendment version of Jefferson's draft. Most notably, Breckinridge omitted the word nullification from the actual version considered by the Kentucky legislature, seeking to moderate the tone of the resolution. Removal of the nullification reference apparently, I gotta do something here. Sorry about that. So, the Breckinridge omitted the word nullification for the actual version considered by the Kentucky legislature seeking moderate to the tone of the resolution, removing notification reference apparently don't bother Jefferson, and in fact did a little change in the fundamental thrust of the resolution. By declaring the Alien Petitions Act unconstitutional, null and void, the Kentucky legislature voted on a nullification bill, even with the actual word omitted. The resolution passed at the House on November 10th with only 3 dissenting votes. The Senate unanimously concurred 3 days later, and Governor Guitarist signed the resolution on November 15th. Kentucky followed up the second resolution affirming the position in 1799, notably including word nullification omitted in the final version of the second resolution in 1798 passed by the state legislature. It says here, the several states who formed that instrument, the Constitution, being sovereign and independent, have the unquestionable right to judge in its infractions. And that nullification by those sovereignties of all unauthorized acts done under color of that instrument is the rightful remedy. Jefferson's principles have endured for more than 200 years despite relentless attacks and demagoguery. Americans have appealed to the ideas brilliantly articulated in the Kentucky Resolution to protect free speech, to promote economic justice, to stop military conscription, and to protect the rights of blacks during the future slave era. Jefferson's words leave no doubt nullification was a rightful remedy, and it remains so today. Mike Beharry wrote that. And it's very interesting because now what you're seeing what's going on right now, even in the state level, they're doing this whole thing. If you anti-Israel boycott act, it's considered a crime if you criticize Israel or businesses criticize Israel, they can go to jail. They're trying to do that at the federal level. And I like some people like Ted George go, oh, why support free speech? But this is considered anti-Semitic. You know what? You get the hell out of there because they're contaminating space. And even flip-flopper Scott who's going to run for the Senate in Florida, he needs to step down. He should think about decline because he is anti-free speech as well. Freedom-hating clowns. They're both the same, Democrats and Republicans. They think alike and smell the same. The gang of thieves. That's why the Kentucky Resolution and the Virginia's Resolution was essential, was a milestone on nullification. And we got that power, folks, within the United States. And you can expand that around the world. So don't be afraid. Action speaks louder than words. Get involved, be proactive in your own particular avenue which you're comfortable. You won't be disappointed. Too much fear. But remember, I say the distant past, my friends. Government and lack of control of the mind. You want to be controlled by these bastards, these parasites, treasonous quacks? I don't. That is it. I thank everyone for listening. But feel free to download and share through the social media networks. If you have any questions, comments, or you send me something that's interesting and may want to check out, whatever you do, please address your correspondence with decorum. To keep me on Facebook, Twitter, Google+, Spreaker, iHeartRadio, Tumblr, YouTube, Freedoms Network, Steam.life, Minds.com, FutureNet.club, Patreon.com/LocalUp3. If you want to be a donor, supporter, it'd be great. Or you hit me on Gab, gab.ai, more freedom of speech version of Twitter. In addition, you can email me at localuck3@gmail.com or encrypted ones, localuck03@protonmail.com. Okay, my friends, that's all for now. Once again, thank you for your time. Let's always remember that the money action resistance helps with the soul and can live with humanity. Until next time, take care of yourselves. Keep on spreading the love, and may your guardian spirits be with you.